Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Zainab Hailu and this is English for University Students episode 9. Today we are going to look at one of the most challenging skills, and that is academic writing skill. You're about to learn how to use phrases and clauses in academic writing. So this is our today's session outline. First, we are going to talk about what a phrase is, and then we're going to see the uses and types of phrases, and then the third section is going to be about clauses, the meaning of clauses, the uses and types of clauses, how to connect clauses in sentence writing, and lastly, we are going to see the grammatical rules. So as a base, if you want to develop the skill of academic writing, you must learn about the building blocks of all sentences, and these are phrases and the clauses. So let's start with a warm-up. Sometimes people use groups of words that do not express a complete thought. As you can see in these two word groups, these are totally no sentences. The first one is a clause and the second one is a phrase. So words needed to be added to make them into sentences. This out can be done. It was early when the post arrived. I threw the flyers in the bin. So adding some words into them, they can function as a sentence. So let's start with defining what a phrase is. A phrase is just a meaningful group of words that cannot make a complete statement because it contains no subject as well as a predicate. Look at this example, an early spring. It doesn't give any sense because it lacks subject and a predicate, but if we add some complete thought, it can make a sense. In early spring, I noticed a change in people's attitude. Now it can make a sense with addition of another main clause or independent clause. Okay guys, let's talk about the use of phrases. A phrase may function as an adjective, an adverb, a noun, or a verb. The first example, look at here. The subject is on the agenda we're all discussed. Here it's used as an adjective and it modifies the first the sentence subject. We discussed the project with a great enthusiasm. We used as an adverb in here. Working hard is her way of life. It's used as a noun in here. The chief engineer should have been more notified. We use it as a verb in this sentence. So these are the four functions. So long sentences are often used in formal texts where a lot of complex information is needed. And for this purpose, we usually use phrases and clauses in academic writing as modifiers. Let us have an example. So in the following sentence, phrases have been added to the two clauses to give extra information. The man from the bridge ran into the house at the end of our street and put out the flames with a fire extinguisher. What you can see here is if you take the phrases underlined out of the sentence, it will still read well and make sense. Let me give it to you. The man ran into the house and put out the flames. You see? Even if you take out the phrases, the sentence can make still a sense or a complete thought. Now let's go to the types of phrases in English language. So even though phrases function as adjectives, adverbs, nouns, or verbs, as we have seen earlier, they are normally named for the kind of word around which they are constructed. So we may say we have prepositional phrase, participle phrase, infinitive phrase, gerund phrase, verb phrase, or noun phrase. So we have around 6 types of phrase in English language. Let me just give you 2 examples. When a phrase that begins with a preposition is there, we call it a prepositional phrase. When a phrase begins with a participle phrase, we call it a participle phrase. So when it starts with a participle, look at the first example. After the meeting, the district managers adjourned to the cafeteria. So we have 2 prepositional phrases here. After the meeting. So we have the preposition after. Based on that, we call this the first word group prepositional phrase. At the end, we have to the cafeteria. To is a proposition, that's how it is named. The division having the largest number of patients will work with the African Union. We have participle phrase because the first word is having, which is participle verb. So that's why we call them participle phrases. Okay, let's move on. We come to the second building block of a sentence, a clause. Clause can be defined in this way. It's a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate. So both phrases and clause are group of words, but what makes a phrase, clause, different from a phrase is it contains a subject and a predicate, whereas phrases do not have both of them. So it functions as a sentence or as part of a sentence. So every predicate, subject predicate word group in a sentence is called a clause. And every sentence must contain at least one independent clause unless it's going to be called sentence fragment. So these are the type of clauses you need to learn and know. If you want to develop an effective academic writing, you need to know the independent or main clause, dependent or subordinate clause, essential clause, and non-essential clause. Let's see them one by one. First, independent dependent clause. So when a clause expresses a complete thought and can stand alone as a simple sentence, we call that sentence independent clause. Look at the example. Monica walked on the grass. When you come to the dependent clause, it's a clause that does not express a complete thought. So it could not stand alone even if the rest of the sentence were deleted. Look at the example again here. Though it was wet. See, it doesn't express any thought totally. But if we bring it or combine it with a main clause, it can give us a complete thought. Though it was wet, Monica walked on the grass. Even the dependent clause can be divided into two, as essential and non-essential clause. So essential clause is a dependent clause that's necessary to the basic meaning of the complete sentence. So in the example, women who are pregnant can crave salty or sweet foods. In this sentence, who are pregnant is essential clause because it identified the subject of the sentence, that is woman. When it comes to non-essential dependent clause, it is not necessary to the basic meaning of complete sentence because the subject is already identified. As you can see from the example, Mulatu tried to attack the vacuum cleaner. Still, if you take out the dependent clause, it can make a sense. That's why we call it non-essential. It just is there to give additional information about the subject. Now let's go to the use of clauses. Dependent clauses are useful in making the relationship between thoughts clearer and more succinct, because if ideas were presented in a series of simple sentences or compound sentences, we don't see this kind of good relationship between the ideas in the sentences. Especially this type of clauses are effective for expressing thoughts that describe or explain another statement. Let me give you here a good example. Look, these fragmented two sentences. The recycling facility is located between Waldia and Odessa. Both towns use it. The two thoughts are approximately equal in their importance, but they are fragmented. But when they are subordinated, they give a clearer image and idea relationship in the sentence. So this is how we can do it. The recycling facility, which is located between Waldia and Odessa, is used by both towns. We put the less important idea in the dependent clause, as you can see, and the rest is used as main clause. So one thought subordinated to the other, as you can see from the example. Now let's continue to how you can connect clauses when you want to write a longer sentence in English language. Look this example first. The man ran. Do you think is it a sentence or not? Of course it's a sentence. It's a clause as well as a sentence because it contains a subject and a verb. But this sentence can be made longer even by adding additional clauses. For instance, you can use conjunctions, or what we call them a cement, like a joining words. So this how it can be done. The man ran out of the house and jumped into the waiting van. And even you can use other linking words to put additional points and make this sentence even longer. So this is how it can be done. The man who had started the fire ran out of the house, even though he was choking from the smoke, and jumped into the waiting van which belonged to his brother. So as you can see from the example, each additional clause contains a verb. I have underlined here for you so that you can easily understand. The man who had started the fire ran out of the house even though he was choking from the smoke and jumped into the waiting van which belonged to his brother. Now let's talk about the grammatical rules when you just create longer sentences. Look at these examples. The manager's report has been issued in accordance with the terms of the key features document, which was distributed at the point of investment and takes account of the terms and the conditions which is normally supplied, unless the investment was made by proxy, in which case the document must be requested separately. One sentence, very long. Such kind of sentences are normally used in academic writing. So what you need to be careful here is in long sentences, the comma indicates where additional information related to the main idea of the sentence, either to start it or end it, that means. So it's used to break up the sentence into smaller chunks or parts of easier understanding. But the comma is never used to separate one sentence from another, so be careful. Look at these examples. Although it was raining, the woman who was wearing a thin jacket decided to go for a walk, while her partner who had a good raincoat stayed at home and watched television. Let me give you just a fraction of a second. Can you just identify the main thought and the linking words used in this sentence? Of course, this is how it can be said. The main thought in this sentence is the woman decides to go for a walk. And the linking word is used also, who, while, and the conjunction and the connect the additional ideas to the main idea, and the comma shows where each additional idea begins or ends. It breaks up the sentence for easier understanding. And the conjunctions like and, but, so, and because normally stand in place of a comma, as you can see from the example. Clauses introduced by other linking words are usually separated by a comma from the rest of the sentence. And look this example. In the big house at the end of our road, or rather opposite our house across the common, a man is working. So the main thought is in here is a man is working, while the extra details are added as phrases and enclosed by commas. So if you take out the words between the commas, and the sentence still reads well and make a sense, or it gives a complete task. One final touch I want to give you here is, look this example. The woman decided to go for a walk. Her partner stayed at home and watched television. These are two separate main clauses and therefore are two separate sentences. A comma must not separate them unless a conjunction or linking word is introduced. So this is how it can be done. The woman decided to go for a walk, while her partner stayed at home and watched television. I hope this lesson will be good as a start for you. Next time I'm going to come up with how you can use these building blocks for academic sentence writing. But until I see you next time, thank you very much for being with me, and don't miss the next lesson because it's too much important for you. Until I see you next Friday, bye, see you.